Hey Emma,
Yes, Mel.
what do you call it when your spy agency partner is in the neighborhood?
I don't know. What do you call it?
A local cooperative. Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
Look, the titles aren't going to cut it this week.
Okay. I was like, that was very unspecific to the games. Just saying,
Have you
but
researched these games?
there's no secret agents. Well, I guess X-Men, if you really want to stretch the term of secret agents.
The setup of the joke never has anything to do with the games.
Fair enough.
It's just the answer, which in a joke is usually called the punchline, but in these kinds of jokes is really more like an answer.
Yeah.
I just didn't think, I was like, oh, like a way out, like I could do something about like whey protein or like
Way
weight.
out, man.
Okay, well, why don't you come up with the jokes then?
No, thank you. I don't want that burden, that curse.
It's a blessing, but it is also a curse.
Uh-huh.
Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. This is Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
It's dangerous to come up with jokes alone, too. If I had workshopped the joke with Emma before we went on the air, maybe she would have thought it was funny.
Maybe. If I knew it was coming, I probably wouldn't have thought it was funny, but...
See, that is the conundrum that I find myself in every other week. Well, folks, I'm your very funny but apparently comedically challenged this week host, Madelyn.
And I'm your other host, Emma.
I also thought about, sorry, this is just be turning into Madelyn's Joke Workshop, the podcast, but I also was like, oh, what do you call it when you and a friend are both playing a medical board game right next to each other?
What do you call it?
Local cooperation.
Cue theme song again.
Burner, burner. But I didn't think, I was like, it's local cooperative, it's not local cooperation, although cooperation usually a part of it.
Anyway, this week we are talking about X-Men Legends and A Way Out.
Combo!
Yes.
That's just good. I'm just going to say that at the end of every kind of cooperative point we make this time. Whenever we agree on anything in this episode, just wait for me to get my best X-Men Legends announcer voice on. Combo!
Which are both local co-op games, as Madelyn implied.
It's strong to say that I implied it. I really pretty much just said it. I said the word.
As Madelyn said explicitly.
So it's a very Talk This episode here at the local co-op city.
Uh-huh.
So, as you might have picked up if you listened to our last full episode, or I think even our last side quest, I am very excited to be talking about X-Men Legends.
Yeah.
I think it's been in the hat since the very beginning. Is that right?
Probably, yeah. Or at least near the start.
It's hard for me to believe that I would not have put X-Men Legends in the hat at the very beginning.
Fair enough. Then it was. You're right.
You can probably go... I wonder if I could go in the Wayback Machine. I could probably see if it was. But that's a lot of work, and I've got a show to record. So X-Men Legends, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. Not boring. These are important people. It was developed by Raven Software. It's their first console title, fun fact. And published by Activision. And even though there is a game out there that is like X-Men, the official game, you'd be lying if you said that there was any official X-Men game other than this game.
Yeah.
Because it's the best.
Yep.
It's not, and I found an article that is like literally titled X-Men Legends is the best X-Men game. And there are a lot.
So it's fact.
So yes, if it's on the internet, it must be true. So it's not based on any particular Marvel universe. It also greatly predates the Marvel obsession that has seized our culture in recent years. I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I just mean we liked it before it was cool.
It does not greatly predate the MCU.
It's 2003,
Iron Man
right?
came out in... It says 2004.
Okay.
And Iron Man came out in 2008.
Yeah, but Like, before that, though, I mean, Marvel was dead. I don't mean that. Of course, I'm sure they were still publishing good comics. But to the average person, Marvel Comics was not a name that rang any real kind of a bell. Like, wasn't something they thought about in any way.
Well, they made the X-Men movies first. The X-Men movies were like 90s movies, weren't they?
No, they're not. You're right that I think the X-Men movies might predate X-Men Legends. Because Charles Xavier, Patrick Stewart, reprises his role.
Uh-huh.
So you're right. The X-Men were pretty big-ish. Not that those movies, like the first two were okay. Were solid superhero movies.
Yeah. It's weird to go back and look at like how small Hugh Jackman is. Like he's very Wolverine, right? But he is much less bulky because he was just an unknown actor at that point, which is weird to think about.
No, he wasn't.
Yeah, he was.
Hugh Jackman as Wolverine was an unknown. No way.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna talk about the game more.
Or at least definitely not as much of a star as he is now.
Okay, fine. Sure, that's fair. But
when we were kids, we were very, very into X-Men specifically as kids. Like, not just, like, comics or whatever, but I remember we had, like, a whole, what was it, Uncanny X-Men? We had, like, the big volume of Uncanny X-Men I don't think remember.
We owned it. I think that we got it out of the library. The library had these big volumes of kind of greatest X-Men hits.
I feel like I remember carrying them around. But X-Men Legends is a continuation of our love for X-Men, in which it follows Magma, whose name is like Allison
Cressmere,
who is also known as Magma because she has magma powers. So like the game starts with the X-Men sort of picking her up to recruit her. Like saving her from the Blob, I think.
Yeah, you fight the Blob as like one of the first bosses.
Yeah, and excluding like where you're playing solo as Allison, like exploring the mansion. All the missions are up to 4 players, and you can pick between a variety of different X-Men. I think the sequel had more.
Yeah, in the sequel, so this game was quite well received and sold quite well, so they made a sequel pretty much just the next year, X-Men Legends 2, Rise of Apocalypse, where you probably are now familiar with Apocalypse from the popular Marvel movies. Because Apocalypse...
Well, the X-Men reboots aren't quite as popular as the rest of the Marvel universe.
Fair enough. It's only because they're, like, forcibly separated that they aren't. Yeah. Fair enough. But still, you've probably heard the name Apocalypse, which was in the context of the X-Men, which is probably more than most people who had played this game.
Yeah.
You know? But you have to ally with the Brotherhood, who are, Magneto's cronies, to fight Apocalypse. So that's why you have more people to fight as, because you can also play as the Brotherhood, and, like, you can, like, unlock Iron Man. He's, like, a secret guy. Yeah.
I was, like, because I was thinking about it, I mostly vividly remember the part where you're in this, like, the sewers with what
the Morlocks.
The Morlocks, but I think that's in the sequel.
No, it's not. It's in the original. I think you likely in the sequel you also encounter the Morlocks, but it's what you are remembering is from this.
Okay, because I remember playing Psylocke, but I was reading that there's only 15 X-Men. I was like, Psylocke would not make the cut of 15 X-Men.
You're wrong, though, because she did.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
She's like the last character you unlock, I think, I remember, but yeah.
Well, I liked playing as Psylocke, and I liked playing as Rogue, I think I remember.
That sounds about right. I pretty much always played as Cyclops.
Yeah, you did.
Like,
I remember that.
Always. I don't know why I liked objectively, right, Cyclops is a boring X-Man.
I know, but he's like the face of the X-Men, right? He's been in, like, every incarnation of the X-Men.
He's been with the X-Men since the very beginning. But so has Jean Grey.
Yeah. What is it? It's Jean Grey. She had, like, an actual name at the very beginning of the X-Men comics.
Oh, no. She's
not
like
Phoenix.
Marvel Wonder
Marvel
Girl.
I think.
It's not Marvel Girl. That would be too on the nose.
It might be, though. And Angel and Iceman.
Iceman's in the first 5?
Yeah. I'm like 100% positive.
Jean Grey.
Oh, who's the 5th one?
Cyclops.
I only remember 4.
Beast. 100% Beast.
Okay, Beast,
Angel.
Iceman, Angel. Iceman.
Iceman?
Iceman. At least in the Uncanny one that we had.
Maybe you're right. No, I think you are right. But he's like the newbie in that one.
Yeah, because he's younger.
Right, because that makes sense, because it's kind of weird. It's funny, because it's like, oh, Iceman is the newbie for real, but now you're playing as Magma, and this is all coming back. But yeah, objectively, Cyclops is like a boring X-Man, but I always liked him, because I'm objectively kind of a boring person.
Yeah. Angel was not a playable character in X-Men. He's like a forgotten X-Man.
Fun fact, he was cut from the game.
Really? That's so sad. I liked Angel.
Yeah, he was cut in the final build.
Oh, that sucks.
I imagine because having a character that kind of, what his only power is to fly, right?
I guess so.
So the system, the way this game works, we're like talking about it as if you know exactly what's going on in this game, and of course you don't. You probably didn't play it.
You're probably familiar with the concept of X-Men, though.
I mean, the actual gameplay of this game.
Oh, fine, sure.
So, it's a local co-op, basically just action-adventure kind of beat-em-up RPG? Not really RPG. But
I guess you do learn skills, don't you?
Yeah, so the whole, you level up, and you get to assign your skill points as you go, right? So there's the skill points in, like, the body, and focus, and strength that you can do that affect your stats, and then you also have skill points that you assign that give you powers. So you can do, there's the one where you have, like, the shield stuff, they all have, like, a shield power.
Yeah, they all have, like, 4 different abilities by the end that you can, like, assign to shortcuts.
Yeah, and you have, once you hit level 15, I would not have remembered this off the top of my head, people, I'm not this much of a nerd, but I remembered it once I read it. Once you hit level 15, you can assign points to your extreme power.
Yeah.
So, like, Wolverine's, the only one I really remember off the top of my head, Wolverine's is like, Savage Rampage!
Oh, right.
That's not a good, like, that's not,
now
the voice sounds like Wolverine,
though.
not that.
Now that you say that, I remember that. That's crazy.
Isn't it crazy how that comes back?
Yeah. But it was the type where you're, like, looking from an overhead perspective, and there are little circles around your characters that you can follow. Like, they just had a trailer for the new Marvel Ultimate Alliance. It sort of looked like those. Right?
Did they release a trailer?
At the Game Awards.
There was actually a I didn't watch the trailer, I don't think.
Oh, there is a trailer. Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's what I'll be doing after the episode tonight. So you fight, you can play with up to 4 people. I don't know that we ever played with fully 4 people, but...
No, it was usually just us and Dad, so 3. Did we... I guess we had a computer character then.
We
Maybe?
must have, yes.
Oh, and right, you could switch between them.
Right.
On the fly.
And sometimes you would have to. So, like, the puzzle part of the game is that sometimes it's like, only certain characters could, fly. Duh, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, the psychic characters were the only ones who could fly. Or storm. Anyone who had a power where they could, like, lift themselves up could fly.
Yeah.
And there were only certain characters that could kind of, like, create bridges. So, like, the psychic characters could create bridges, and Iceman could create bridges, right? And the worst part of the game is when you would fall off the edge and die.
Yeah.
Because you don't respawn right away, right? You only respawn when you get to the, like checkpoint.
Checkpoints, yeah. And, like Cyclops could, like, break down walls, maybe?
Cyclops was almost certainly not useful for any of those things. But there were, like, strong characters. Colossus could, like, carry things.
Like, Colossus and Beast could, like, pick up particularly heavy things. And Rogue.
Yes.
That's how I remember that's why I would play as Rogue sometimes. Because, like, I want to throw this car.
So, you should theoretically be balancing your team, and they designed it this way on purpose, to, like, balance your team, so you'd have to play as a bunch of different characters. Of course, we didn't do that, we pretty much always played as the same characters, but I guess we must have balanced our team.
I guess we brought the computer character that we needed, also. Right?
Although, I feel like I do remember times where we would, like, encounter an obstacle and be like, oh, crap, like, we have to go all the way back to get...
I don't remember that. I feel like there are some missions where you have to bring certain people along.
Well, you don't unlock all the characters right away, too. It's part of it. Anyway.
I don't remember having to go back and switch party members, but maybe we did.
Anyway, so, there is an overall story to the game, right? It's pretty classic X-Men fare. You've got Allison, who will eventually become Magma, who is learning to be a mutant at Professor Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters.
I actually, I really liked the parts, or at least I do in retrospect, where Magma is, like, running around the school and, like, talking to people who are just, like, hanging out on the grounds. I was like, that was a fun part for me.
I have a feeling going back to it, it would not be a very fun. I also remember it as being quite fun. I'm fairly confident that it would not be fun.
The school was, like, so complete, though, is what I remember. Like,
yeah, because they all had very specific rooms that would, like, matched up with the personality of each person.
And, like, it had a layout that kind of, like, followed a little bit, right? Like, you go upstairs for certain things, you go down to the basement for, like, training, and all sorts of things.
And there was also the, like, X trivia, where you could get bonus experience for the trivia.
Yeah.
Which we always destroyed because Dad knew all the answers.
Yeah.
I'm sure if I went back to that now, it would be less fun now, too, because, of course, I just have my smartphone, right?
Yeah.
That's funny to think of. It's like like on Persona, whenever I'm playing Persona, I'm like, whatever, like, I'm gonna look up the answer, even if I'm 100% sure I know the answer.
I don't know if your it works on the PS3, but on the PS4 version of Persona, you can literally just, like, it'll tell you the stats of other players, like, what they picked. And so the one with, like, the most...
Oh, I never connect to the Thieves Guild.
Yeah, so, like, if you connect to the... they're gonna look it up on their smartphones anyway, so they just implemented that feature into the game to make it easier for you.
That's funny. Anyway, Magma's learning to be a mutant. At the same time, the Brotherhood is up to their usual nonsense, led by Magneto. And there's all sorts of fun stuff. It's like you go to, like, a facility in Alaska, and that part of it I remember that level in particular kind of sucks, because it's, like, early in the game. You're not really very leveled up. It's kind of a grind, and you're also just running around in the snow, and you're lost.
Mm-hmm. I do remember getting lost, yeah.
Right. And then it's like you have to go down to the Morlocks and the sewers, and then apparently, and I remember this now that I read it, right, Colossus, his sister, goes into a coma because of the Shadow King, and you go to the astral plane, and for, like, 20 glorious minutes you get to play as Professor X and just, like, wreck everything around you.
Is this the game where you have to, like, choose whether you kill Nightcrawler or somebody else?
I think that's that does not happen in X-Men Legends 1.
Okay.
I can't remember if that happens in 2 or if it's in one of the Marvel Ultimate Alliance games, but that definitely that brought back feelings.
I know. That brought back feelings.
I don't remember who the other person is, which must tell me something about my decision.
Clearly we saved Nightcrawler, yeah. I mean, who wouldn't in that situation, right?
I'm gonna have to look this up. Well, I'll have you add it to our show notes.
Okay.
Or I'll just do a poll. We can do an Instagram story poll. Who would you save?
Oh, yeah. We can do it on Twitter, too. Who would you save?
Perfect.
Nightcrawler or whoever the other person was.
Nightcrawler, some other chick. And then there's, like, a final fight on the asteroid, right? So you stop Magneto from, like...
Yeah, you go to, like, space.
Something.
Yeah.
And Magma saves
the
day.
asteroid, like, M. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Asteroid M.
For Magneto.
Or mutant, I guess.
So yeah, it got put into the PlayStation 2 greatest hits, so I don't know what greater honor there is.
Well, being available on a modern system might be a nice honor.
Okay, do you think...
I cannot believe that it's not on anything.
Well, I can, for a number of reasons.
I mean, copyright, whatever, but...
Copyright, one, but because, like, this game is not really, like, nobody who really at Marvel, like, was a part of this first game. It was written, I didn't know this before, it was written by a team of former Marvel writers known as Man of Action. And, like, Stan Lee, like, supervised and, like, approved it, so, it's got the blessing. But it's not, like, Marvel, like, helped make this game, really, in any way. It's, like, former Marvel dudes.
Yeah, but I want it.
So, I wonder, folks, you might be thinking to yourself, that's funny, I played Marvel Ultimate Alliance when I was younger, and this game sounds a lot like that. Well, it's because it's the same game. It just has different characters.
Yeah.
This series leads into the Marvel Ultimate Alliance series, which, blessedly, is apparently being revived. Nobody saw that coming.
I thought it was going to be like the Square Enix Avengers game, but I'll take this too.
This is so much better. Actually, fun Square
we know
Enix...
nothing about the Square Enix Avengers game, so who knows?
Square Enix related fact. The original concept for this game was apparently much more similar to Final Fantasy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, like turn-based.
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
Which would have been lame. So I'm glad they went this way. Probably wouldn't have been lame, but it would have been too lame for me as a 9-year-old. So
Yeah.
But yeah, and so I'm hoping the fact that Marvel Ultimate Alliance has been revived means that maybe, just maybe, X-Men Legends will get a remaster.
Yeah. I mean, it was on all systems, so I could see it. Like, it's a great game for the Switch. Why isn't it on the Switch already? They're already bringing every other game in existence.
Right, the combat is pretty simple, so you could do it 4 players still.
Yeah.
Ugh, I wish.
Can we start a change.org petition, please?
I saw something when I was researching, like, someone saying, like, someone's making a fan-made X-Men Legends 3. Which
Really?
I'm sure nothing is coming of it. I'm sure it was from, like, 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
Oh, I see. Because I would play it.
I would, too. I mean, I gotta get my pre-order in for Ultimate 3. Not that that's they don't even have a release date, right? But whatever. Where do I send my check?
Yeah. Next year. That's the release date.
I know.
Sometime next year.
I'm so excited.
God. This is entirely off topic, but 2019 is going to bankrupt me.
That's okay.
Like, there are so many games that I want. Even just in, like, the first half of the year. Just like, gosh, game industry, please calm down.
Or just send us games for free.
That's true. Please send us games for free. Thanks.
I was thinking to myself, do I think that X-Men Legends was sort of my real, like the real forge, in which my love of local co-op was formed?
I don't know. We played a lot of, like, local co-op games. Because there were a lot back then, right?
Well, it's like, obviously the first real one we must have really played was Crash Team Racing.
Yeah.
Also getting a reboot. It must be about, like, we've reached that point in the cycle, finally, where they're rebooting games that are from my childhood.
Yeah.
So I really must be an adult now.
Yeah.
So that must have been, the inaugural experience. But after that...
Crash Bash.
Sure, Crash Bash. Yeah, where's my freaking Crash Bash reboot?
Give them time. They just did, like, the Crash Bandicoot mainline games, then they'll do this one, and then they'll get to Crash Bash.
I already saw calls for it on Twitter, though, so I'm hype. People were like, what about Crash Bash? Crash Bash combo pack? Combo!
And we had Team Buddies.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about... Wait. We didn't even talk about combo. I just said combo like a fool. And everyone's like, what is wrong with Madelyn? So every time that you and either the AI character, you can kind of, like, call to use their powers, right? Or one of your friends use a power at the same time on an enemy, the guy will say, combo!
Yeah, there's, like, an announcer man.
Which feels just about right.
Yeah. It really does.
Anyway, I just had to explain that, well, I am a crazy person. That was not a manifestation of that.
But yeah, this is probably one of the games that I'm just most disappointed you cannot find anywhere.
It's this Team Buddies, although Dad rightly pointed out to me on the phone this week that, like, he's like, you guys basically said Splatoon was the same, right? And I was like, yeah. So, I'll take what I can get, I guess. But yeah, like, X-Men Legends is a huge one. I'm trying to think what else I really wish I could play. Think of anything? Crash Bash. Crash Bash.
Crash Bash.
Crash Bash is dope. Barbie gymnastics.
No, you don't.
Not really.
I feel like there are so many PS2 games that you can play on either PS3 or PS4, and this is just not one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to re-buy it from the PlayStation Store, but they're there.
Yeah.
So.
I wish Age of Mythology was available for Mac.
That's fair.
That's a tough one. And Sid Meier's Pirates. Haven't actually looked into that one.
Oh, yeah.
Was never very good at that game. Would like to play it again. because I feel like I might be better at it.
I like the dancing.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The dancing was the best part. Goodness gracious. The listeners, send us in your suggestions also. What are the games that you loved and now have lost to consoles growing up into their final forms?
Yeah.
All this to say, X-Men Legends, really pretty much everything you want in a local co-op game.
Yeah.
Anyone can play it. The only annoying thing about playing with someone who's really too young to play video games is that you can't, move, the screen has to stay locked. Right?
Yeah.
This is not a split-screen game, folks. This is just a everybody on a screen, drop-in, drop-out game.
I kind of like that better, honestly.
I do, too. Especially given, the current size of my television. I do like that much better.
I mean, depends on the game, but yeah, I generally like it better when it's all on one screen.
Well, folks, we've loved and we've lost.
This has been our childhood.
This has been... Oh, man, I'm trying to, come up with one that ends with this. I don't have a good one. This has been Reboot This.
There you go.
Remaster This.
And speaking of nothing, there's nothing in that
speaking
sentence.
Of local games that are better played local co-op.
Fair. Our new game from Hazelight Studios, and more specifically Josef Fares, is A Way Out.
It's a Swedish company.
Yes. Josef does have some sort of accent. I don't really know.
When I saw the look of the game, I was like, yeah, that does seem like Scandinavian. I don't know. Sometimes, I went to this, Halloween event where they were showing some short films, and there was one that was from, some kind of it was very weird, but it was that kind of animation.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the look of A Way Out. I don't think it looks great.
It's, almost realistic, but it's clear that they didn't really want it to be perfectly realistic, but... Yeah. It's also not clear.
That's not the notable part of A Way Out, right? Whatever with the graphics, whatever with the voice acting, whatever with the kind of campy story. What's interesting about A Way Out is that it is a game that's required. You have to have two people to play it.
Combo!
There's no single player option. One of you plays as Vincent
and Leo.
Leo. One of you plays as Vincent. One of you plays as Leo. And you are making your way through the story together.
Trying to find a way out.
Josef Fares is the guy from not this year's Game Awards, but last year's Game Awards, who just screamed F the Oscars.
Oh.
He just went on a big tangent. He was just saying, man, video games are so amazing. He used to be a filmmaker, I think, and moved to video games.
That's an interesting trajectory.
But he has a lot of, his other first game was Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons, in which one person controls two characters with, different sides of their controller. And so this was, taking that in the exact opposite direction. So he has a lot of really interesting ideas when it comes to using gameplay and using games. So I think he's really interesting. He's a little bit of a character. I'll just put it like that. He wasn't an angry tangent. It was just him being himself.
Yeah, I dig the way this game seems to use... Well, one, I dig that it's basically local co-op required. I realize you can play it online, but what a strange experience playing this game online would be.
Yeah.
I guess it would, in many ways, be much more like the experience of the characters, right? Because you don't really know what the other person is thinking at any given time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I wouldn't want... I mean, I realize that I'm saying this from the perspective of someone who really doesn't partake in online gaming, but for many of them, I understand the appeal, right? I just don't. I choose not to do it because it's just not my preference. But here, it's why? In the same way as why on earth would you play Overcooked online? I don't know why you would play this online.
Yeah, I mean, it's one thing if you just want to play with someone who doesn't live with you and you call them while you're playing it, right? That's one thing. It'd be weird to just find somebody random. But anyway, Way Out, the basic premise is you are both in jail for various amounts of times. One of you for like white collar crimes, and one of you for like
Yeah, I can give more details. Vincent, it's 1972. You've been sent to prison for fraud and murder. I think that must be the white collar crime, but there's murder involved. And there you meet Leo, who's in prison for grand theft and assault and armed robbery. Yes. And Leo is, like, going to be killed, like, in the cafeteria by some other guy in prison. I think Harvey, right? Something with an H.
Not that important.
Something with an H that's kind of manly. Vincent saves his life. They decide to collaborate on a prison break. Eventually you escape, and you just become general collaborators. And eventually, spoiler alert, although enemies.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a whole mishmash of different, like, it's a different gameplay mechanic in every vignette you're in, because it's very much a vignette sort of game, and it doesn't make a lot of logical sense, but it really feels like somebody who's, like, experimenting with this idea of having two people playing things. So, like, you progress, like, asynchronously, so somebody might be watching a cutscene while somebody else is walking around and doing things, and in a lot of situations you have to help the other, so, like, one person might be trying to sneak to steal something, and you have to distract the people so that they don't see them doing this. Or you even do things like, I don't know, like play Connect 4, or like throw rings in a competition, like with whatever that ring toss game is. And there are like chase sequences too, which are like really cool to at least watch, because I've watched a little bit of this game. I haven't played it because Madelyn is never here.
Apparently,
Madelyn is never near my PS4.
Online.
Well, you do have a PS4 now.
Now I do. So I was thinking as I was like reading about this game, I was like, oh, this would be interesting to play with Emma.
Yeah, it's a really cool idea. Like I think the value of the game is found in that idea, and everything else is just kind of there to make this idea work. But it is a really cool idea.
And I'm excited that, I'm glad and excited that at the end, whatever, we have the stupid multiple endings stuff, right?
Yeah.
But it's because, that makes sense in a co-op game that you can have two endings, because at the end, again, spoilers, you fight each other. And that is, in any good co-op game, there has to be a point where you fight each other, I think.
Yeah. It's a very dramatic ending. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's very dramatic.
I think you're right. Usually it bothers me when games have kind of weak stories. But obviously the sort of mission of this game is to explore the mechanics.
Yeah.
Right? And if we're doing this kind of creative stuff with the mechanics, that's fine. I think it's more important that you focus your energy there.
Yeah. Like, it feels like something that could, like, this is not a game, I feel like, that anything similar has been made, in that it's like this narrative-focused thing where you're playing together, but you're also doing your own thing, but you're working together. So it feels very different from any other kind of local co-op. And I feel like it's like kind of like a proof of concept in some ways. Saying like, look at this, look how cool this is. Now let's refine it and work on it. Right?
I really hope it is that, because it does feel like, and whatever, if you've been listening to Talk This, we feel this way, but let me get on my soapbox for a minute. It really does feel like local co-op is something that's been left to the wayside for a while, in favor of single player, but more importantly, in favor of online co-op, and particularly kind of a massively multiplayer online co-op.
Yeah.
Which, can you really even call that co-op anymore? Not really, but whatever.
We form parties.
You know what? That's fair. I've had some very cooperative experience in my limited Fortnite play that has restored my faith in humanity. When that random person revived Josh when he was playing that one time, I shed a tear. It's like, you did not have to do that. He's contributing nothing to your team, and yet you did. But I really hope this launches a kind of local co-op revitalization. Because, there aren't very many other forms of media that can experiment with this kind of two-person experience, right?
Yeah.
And I always dig it in theater. We saw, if you're into theater and like weird theater in New York, we saw, oh my god, the name is gone. I wanted to see this show for like freaking years. And I saw it and now I've completely forgotten the name. Interactive Hamlet. Sleep No More. I got it before the Google came up. We saw Sleep No More, and Sleep No More is super freaking cool because it's like sort of like being in a video game Hamlet, except you don't get to like poison anybody or whatever. But like you can have like one-on-one experiences with the characters and like see different things, and I love that stuff. But as much as like it's cool in theater, it's really like a thing that is meant for video games. Video games, like, this is what they do. They can do this.
Yeah.
And I hope that we see people starting to explore that form and that, possibility more.
Yeah.
Because just reading about this game got me so excited.
Yeah. I was considering for a while doing a playlist on this, but one, I can't record anything because I don't have anyone to play with. And two, it feels a little bit obvious, right? Like, this is of course how they're enhancing the storytelling. But even though it's obvious, it's very unique at the same time.
Well, it could be interesting to pair it with some kind of other game, maybe. Anyway, we can play this off the air. It did sell 1 million copies in 2 weeks. So clearly there's interest and a market hunger for this kind of a game, which was also exciting to me because sometimes I feel like a little depressed about the future of local co-op, Emma. I do. Because it's like, you know what? Like, I live with someone who likes to game. That's really nice because it lets me play other types of games. But, most people probably don't. Most people are solo gamers in their household or don't like the other gamers that they live with.
Yeah. Although I read an article like around the time this released of like someone was like playing it with their dad who didn't play video games because it was sort of like, the sort of drama, like, there's nothing particularly serious happening in the story, so you don't really have to follow along with that, and there's the experience of hanging out together as well as playing the game.
That's
right?
So lovely.
Yeah, right? Because because, especially since you are playing a narrative, there's sort of this idea of, like, hanging out together and, like, watching a movie together, but being the movie at the same time, right?
I just think it's so bold that they didn't feel the need to cop out and include a single-player experience.
Yeah. No, Joseph Fares is nothing but if not bold.
Well, I just mean, I've never tried to play it, but I was thinking as I was researching this game, are there any other games that are required to be local co-op? Well, The only one that came immediately to mind, at least that I've played, is Overcooked, which does allow you to play single player. I've never tried it. It really seems against the entire point of the game.
Yeah.
But it is there.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't think of anything else that wasn't just like explicitly like you're competing against each other, right? Of course there are.
Yeah. I mean, Super Smash. Even that you can
Smash
play.
has a single player campaign.
Yeah. Yeah. Fighter games, there's a story mode. I mean, there's a lot of games where it's like, well, you're here for the co-op, right? But
sure,
I couldn't really think of any that was like, you have to do co-op.
I'll have to go on Co-Optimus and take a look around. But I think that's so cool. It's like, how dare you tell me that I can't play this alone? It's nice. Maybe I only feel that way, though, because I feel pretty confident I have 2 different people who would play co-op games with me if I asked.
Yeah, that's fair. It's always helpful to have somebody to play with.
I would play this one with Josh, but I think I would make him let me win at the end. Which would just sort of be against the point of it.
Uh-huh. Another thing that I noticed when watching this game, it's really nicely like the set pieces are really well done, I feel like. So like there's a chase scene in one part and the part where you're fighting each other, like the progression is really nice. Like it gives like, in the time when you're fighting each other, it, like, gives one of you an advantage at one point, and it gives the other one of you an advantage at another point, and then it makes it into sort of, like, a stealth type thing where you have to sneak up on the other person. And then there's, like, a dramatic race for the gun that, like, depending on how much health you have, it makes you go faster or slower towards it at that point. So it's, like, really well thought out and, like, seems to work really well, which is cool.
Well, supposedly it's not super expensive, so maybe I'll have to buy it.
I'm pretty sure it was like $30 or $40 when it came out.
It was $30 when it came out, so surely by now it's $25 at least.
Yeah, it's definitely on sale every once in a while too. So.
Well, cool. Maybe a game to play. Now that I have a PS4, it's really bad because every game I research, I'm like, oh. I'm either like, oh, that sounds fun for me, or I'm like, oh, that sounds fun to play with, like, either Josh or Emma, or, oh, like, I don't really have time for that, but Josh would love Monster Hunter.
Yeah. I already sent you off. I gave Madelyn, like, 6 of my games to start her off on the PlayStation 4.
It's too many.
I know. And like, not all of them were great. Like, I sort of foisted Watch Dogs 2 off on you, because I was like, maybe you'll like it. Yeah, but at least, you know, that's already a lot to start with, and then you'll get Crash Team Racing, and you'll get Kingdom Hearts 3, and there's so many other games coming out next year, too. It's just crazy.
Well, let's try to add one to the list by coming up with a new game.
Yes.
Thoughts on how we might mash these two together? I mean, obviously, local co-op required.
Yes. A narrative-style X-Men game. Who's like a... Maybe you're like, I don't know, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch.
Ugh, no.
And you're escaping the Brotherhood.
I don't think...
Did you say, no,
I don't think Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch have interesting enough powers to base a game around.
Fine.
What even is Scarlet Witch's power?
It's unclear. Witchiness.
Thanks.
No, she can bend the fabric of reality or something.
Yeah, okay, that's no good for a video game.
Yeah, it's very nebulous. I was just trying to think of X-Men characters that, like, have a relationship to each other.
I feel like you could do something with, like, Dark Phoenix. Not that we haven't told that story, like, 20 times, but, you know.
They're making the movie again.
Again?
So that's the next X-Men movie is Dark Phoenix.
I realize it's one of the more interesting X-Men plot lines that doesn't take too much lore to understand.
Except it kind of does, because she, like, goes to space, and there's, like, an alien force that possesses her.
Okay. That's true. I kind of blocked that part out.
I don't think that's quite how they did it in The Last Stand, but The Last Stand sucked. So
just forget about The Last Stand.
That's what they want you to do.
You're a writer writing an X-Men game, and you have to not write that.
Easy. No, I was just like, I don't know. It's like a pair. I only know X-Men Evolution, really, which, by the way, was a great TV show.
Okay. Other X-Men. Like, who are X-Men?
Do you remember X-Men Evolution?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, good. Good. I was worried because you didn't respond.
They're in high school, right? In that one,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, who are some good X-Men to base a narrative around? Because I like that idea.
Yeah, what's like a good team-up?
2 X-Men. I mean, we could go bold and make it a 4-player narrative.
Oh, that might be a little much, especially on your tiny TV.
Bold!
I don't think your tiny TV could take it.
I mean, you could do, like, No, they'd be too powerful, though. You could do something with, like, Professor X and Magneto team up. But I'd like a woman in there if I can get one.
Yeah. I mean, my favorite X-Man is Shadowcat or Kitty Pryde or whatever.
Kitty Pryde is so hard. Well, you know, though, in a game that's sort of more puzzle-based than beat-em-up, Shadowcat could be an interesting...
Maybe Shadowcat and Nightcrawler?
No, that's too similar.
But they're not, though, because she can go through walls, but he can go across space.
I know that.
Because he can't go through walls.
Right, he has to be able to see it, right?
Yeah.
I still think their powers that's too similar.
Ugh.
That wouldn't make the co-op play very interesting, because you could, like, basically do the same things.
I guess so. Well, whatever. We don't have to pick the specific ones right now, but you play as 2 X-Men. What is the idea? Like, what is the plot line, though?
Goodness gracious. Who do we want to pit them against? You know, are they are they against the Brotherhood? Maybe you're playing...
I mean, the Brotherhood is a classic. That seems like a good one to start the first game with. And if we get a sequel, we can go more deep dive.
That's true. I just feel like the
lore.
Brotherhood is pretty low stakes at this point. I mean, we're releasing this game up against Avengers Endgame or Avengers This Is the End.
The Avengers Endgame trailer almost made me cry a little bit.
Avengers Captain America is depressed.
I did cry at the end of Infinity War.
Avengers, Tony needs some therapy.
I'm very weak.
So it's gotta have some, it's gotta have some gravitas, some weight to it. Or it's gonna be hard to release this with that coming out,
That's fair. And there is sort of like a campy gravitas to A Way Out, right? So
yeah.
But the thing is, I don't know a lot of X-Men villains that aren't Brotherhood or MODOK or Juggernaut.
What is MODOK?
He's like the big guy in like the chair, remember?
Oh.
Isn't he an X-Men villain?
I don't know what you're talking about.
He's like a big fat baby in a chair.
Sure.
I'll send you a picture later.
There's the aliens, there's the whole alien race, right? That like Cyclops' dad is with.
Yeah. There's the alien race.
You can play as Cyclops and Havoc, his brother.
Yeah. Again, though, like, Havoc can, like, shoot things out of his hands, and Cyclops can shoot things out of his eyes.
I mean, okay, so it's an X-Men game, right? So Wolverine has to be in it.
Yeah, but I don't think you should play as Wolverine.
You're right. Something's going on with Wolverine.
Okay.
Wolverine has pulled a Dark Phoenix.
Interesting.
Or maybe Dark Phoenix... Okay. Dark Phoenix is the enemy.
Okay.
And she is, like... I don't remember how Dark Phoenix's powers freaking work, right? But whatever, we're gonna reboot it here.
Again, the Phoenix powers are also like Scarlet Witch powers. Like, they just sort of do things.
So, like...
That's my general impression.
She is, brainwashing X-Men to fight for her.
Okay.
In her quest to do something bad. The United States government.
Yeah.
And maybe you get to choose. Maybe we're going to incorporate that X-Men Legends element of getting to like switch characters in and out. What do you think about that?
I like the idea of it. In practice, could get extremely freaking complicated.
You're right. We'll narrow the options. It'll just be like 4.
Like, if you keep it to like 6 to 4, yeah.
We'll narrow the options, and not everyone will be available at any given time. And you could do a thing where it's like you're each controlling 2 of them at once.
Yeah, I think, like, if you have different scenarios where you have different people, that would be fine. I think the complex thing would come from, like, switching them on the fly.
Yeah. So I think we should have a team of, like, 4 or so X-Men who you can switch in and out. And you'll want different combinations. We'll present you with sort of different options of ways to move forward. Mm-hmm. And there are beat-em-up elements, but it's every once in a while.
Yeah.
But mostly it's a puzzler using the powers to make your way in a cooperative way.
Yeah. So you need a psychic character, a strong character. Character can make bridges.
The psychic character can do that, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it's like you have, like, either Psylocke or Emma Frost.
Maybe there's, like, a smart character? Is that
Oh, right? Intelligence! I forgot about that. That's what a BS thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have,
hacky.
like, Colossus. You have, No, Colossus is boring. Anyway, we'll work out the characters.
Yeah, we'd have to really go deep into X-Men and try to find ones that would play well off each other, that have some sort of history. We have a like medium level understanding of X-Men lore.
It's like
making this game, we'd have to have a deep understanding.
You could, and this would be boring because there'd be no women, right? But it could be like Cyclops, Angel, Beast, Iceman, right? Original 4. Mm-hmm. But that's boring. I want I want Storm in there. Mm-hmm. I think you'd have to have Cyclops, right? Because of the Jean Grey thing.
Yeah.
And because I like Cyclops, so suck it. But Okay, like, I'm doing the game, alright? I'm putting the player that I play as. You can't stop me.
So you got Cyclops, who's there, and he's just existing there. And like he can bust through things with his eyes.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
And like it's like Cyclops does have the potential for some interesting mechanics because he has to have his thing on, and if he doesn't have his glasses on, then he's useless. Right? So he does have like that exploitable weakness that you could bring into the story, which does make him a little bit of an interesting one to play with, I think.
We could put Shadowcat in. I think Shadowcat would be good for this kind of game.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Then we need someone who can fly. So maybe Storm, maybe a psychic character of some kind, maybe Angel if we want to throw him a bone.
Angel, please. I remember Angel, like, he gets his wings cut off at some point.
He does get his wings cut off at some point, yeah, and then he's just Warren Harding the third.
Yeah, it's very sad. Poor Angel.
And then we'd have to pick someone kind of like out of left field, whatever our breakout character's gonna be.
Yeah,
one of the New Mutants or something.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I think it sounds good.
I'm into it. Wait for it. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and then Marvel, this time you have to work together. No, we call it X-Men Legends Combo!
There you go. If the picking X-Men got too complicated, we could try to find like a smaller X-Men adjacent team that we could just work off of too.
You're right.
Like you said, the New Mutants. I think that is an actual.
It is. I didn't just say that.
Yeah, you could just work off the New Mutants,
that could work.
Who are, slightly more diverse. I think also.
Well,
from the get-go.
Excellent.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like it has some reasonable working value.
No one will ever make it.
No one would ever make it.
But, we can dream.
I mean, they're working on their like narrative focused superhero games. We have Spider-Man. Square Enix is apparently making some sort of Avengers thing.
I more meant that no one will ever make it because the X-Men are stuck, owned by a different company.
Yeah, that's true. That's the sad part.
I
mean, Wolverine is in Ultimate Alliance 3. So
yeah, but
they've got something worked out. I'm pretty sure the X-Men are only owned for film rights. I don't know how that transfers to video game rights.
Who knows?
Because I don't think Sony is involved at all in. I mean, I guess it's a PS4 title. Never mind. But I think that's different than. I don't know. Because they just own the film rights. Fox does.
Yeah, this is above my head.
Everything. Anyway. Please put X-Men Legends on the PSN store or the eShop. Thanks. Bye.
Just so we can prepare for 3. We need to read up on all the lore for a Marvel game.
Yeah. So that's been another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
Do you want to give the spiel, Mel?
Yes. Well, Emma is pulling up our hat for our next full episode. I'll give the spiel. So hey, if you enjoy us talking about games that we played a decade ago that aren't available on any modern system, or just talking about video games in general or this podcast for any reason, you should listen to more episodes. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, and pretty much wherever podcasts are found. So you should check us out there. And if you really like us, you don't ever want to miss an episode, why, they come out Sundays at noon. But if that's too much to remember, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? Then the podcast will download for you automatically, and it'll be there for your listening pleasure on those lazy Sunday afternoons. Let's see. If you want even more Talk This content, you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talk This Podcast, where you'll see posts from our website, memes. Emma tweets her thoughts about things that are really funny a lot. So you should definitely follow us there. We're also on YouTube, where we're Talk This Sisters. So definitely subscribe to us there so you never miss one of Emma's gameplay, a storytelling, exploration series videos. Play This. Any of the Clickbait Boyfriend mini vlogs or instant reactions to Kingdom Hearts trailers where he basically just embarrasses himself for my benefit. Or like various other video content that occasionally goes up there. So definitely check that out. Or, also, for even more Talk This, you should check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com. There you can see the games in the hat that we're about to pick from, read more about the show, read more about us, and check out our blog, where you can find the long-running Clickbait Boyfriend Plays Kingdom Hearts series, our less long-running, but now much longer-running than I think of it as being, Split Screen, subsidiary of Watch This, where we watch our off-topic corner shows Boys Over Flowers and My Hero Academia. It's getting crazy up in there. Plus occasional series, X Thoughts and X Hours, Buzz This, and just various blogs. We recap our blog content every other week on our side quest episodes, which you should be sure to check out. Every other week, when we're not talking about games, we talk about what we've been playing. I mean, we are talking about games. What a dumb thing to say. Of course, we're still talking about games. But
we're always talking about games.
We're not talking about 2 games that we picked in advance. Instead, we talk about what we've been playing, a couple of questions that we pose about the industry as a whole, what we've been reading on our blog, all that good stuff. My throat's starting to hurt from talking this much in a row, so much for my acting training. So Emma, why don't we pick the games for our next full episode?
So before we pick... Program note. So we're picking games now, but you won't actually hear this episode for,
3 weeks.
3 weeks. Yeah. Because in place of our usual full episode, on the 30th of December, we're going to have a Best of 2018 episode. What that will entail, we're not 100% sure yet, but it's going to happen.
If you have suggestions for Best of categories, do send them our way.
We'll have a little superlative type thing. Maybe some games, obviously. Maybe some off-topic corner. I don't know. Podcast-related stuff. We'll figure it out.
It's going to be a wild episode. You won't want to miss it.
Yes. But for the one after that, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled mashups. So, for that episode, for our old game, we will be talking about Yume Nikki.
Cool.
It's a very indie horror game.
Is that an old game?
Yes, it's an old game.
Interesting.
There was a sequel or something that came out recently.
Okay. What about our new game?
It's old. Our new game we're talking about is We Happy Few.
Alrighty. Well, folks, look for us to kick off 2019. And coming up on the 2-year anniversary of Talk This, by the way.
Yeah. Damn.
With those 2 games. So check that out. First Sunday of January. Look for our side quest next week. Our best of episode the week following that. And in the meantime, Emma, send the good people out with a smile.
This week, I hope that you get a combo.